Rashad, there's Anthony, and we got Ivy on the camera. We're going to be doing episode 7 of the Scramblers Guide, Top Mount. So Anthony, you lay on your back. So let's say you're on mount and you started off with a low mount. Low meaning you're lower on his body, whereas high means you're higher up on his body. So if I'm low, I'd probably try and get a grapevine hook, which is just getting my legs wrapped around his legs. And let's say I got a crossface underhook, so right hand's got the crossface. And whenever you're crossfacing someone, you want their face pointed away from where your post is gone. So if here's my post, and you bump me that way, I can post. But if I have a crossface here and his head is faced that way, bump me that way, yeah, I'm screwed. So go back. So we have a saying in wrestling, which is he can only go where his head is. So if I tilt his face using my shoulder that way, not trying to bump me this way, you just can't go that way because his face is pointed this way. Now if you really need to and he's really strong, one thing you could do, so I come to like this area, you see my left leg, if he's gonna try and bump me this way, he needs to step on this. So try and bump me. You see, the moment you try to bump me and I feel it, I'm flaring out this foot. If this is flared out, he just can't bridge. I'm literally eliminating that option. So you can put a lot of pressure in that position. You're not gonna tap anybody out unless you're kind of crazy. But so what you want to do is try and start working for Americana on this arm by getting your underhook with your left arm and just walking. And you're gonna try and start reaching for his wrist with my crossface arm. Once I have that, depends on how strong he is. If I can, I will try and finish without popping my crossface arm out. So I'm gonna twist his wrist down with my right arm, the one that's grabbing his wrist, and then my left arm, the one that's grabbing I'm still gonna twist even more. It's gonna flare his elbow up. And I'm gonna try and get his wrist to his rib. And now he's tapping. But let's say you felt like it would have been easier to get your crossface arm out. It's gonna be a lot stronger if you can pop that out. You're gonna make sure his head is facing away, because he's gonna try and grab onto his own wrist. But if his head is facing away, it's gonna be really hard for him to do that. And then same deal, you can tap it faster. And I found it really mean. I learned this at an MMA gym, Kaizen. Forget who showed it to me. But I want his head to be facing away. What you can do is start putting your elbow on his face. And it's going to be really hard for him to turn into me. It's going to be very painful. But let's say, and I didn't even write notes for this, but I just came to my memory. So let's see if I can pull this off. Let's say he tries to grab his own hand from the inside. If I remember, if he grabs from the inside, I'm going to let him turn towards, turn this way. Turn your chest this way. Because that's what he's going to try and do. And I'm going to start working an ice pick Americana. So you're going to let go of your wrist hand. So my right hand is grabbing this. I'm going to let go of that. I'm going to get my radial bone on his wrist. I'm going to make an ice pick and point it down. Pretty much punch into the ground. I'm going to grab my own hand, the ice pick hand. I'm going to start bringing his elbow to his sternum. Tap. And as you can tell, he actually tapped earlier than I expected. My bad. His sternum was here, he tapped here. So you can really bring it in. So it doesn't really matter if he's grabbing his own wrist on Americana. Let's say I got your Americana again. And also to consider, if you don't want him to turn that way, so as you try to turn this way, to my left, the place where the Americana is happening. So come to this side, Abby. He's gonna have to bridge off of his left leg. So as he tries to reach for his own hand, I'm gonna start flaring out his leg. And that's gonna make it really hard for him to reach because he can't bridge towards it anymore. But let's say he reaches from the outside. Yeah. I think you did it last time. Go back from the inside. If he reaches from the inside, I don't think it makes a difference. I'll still go for the ice pick Americana. But let's see. So next is if he's really flexible. A lot of times you can't really go for the Americana as you're going for this underhook walk up. Instead, his hand gets to arm triangle situation. So the crossface hand is gonna cut the tricep so that your head can switch. Gable grip your own hand, and then come up high with your mount so that you can get a butterfly hook in. And try to make it kind of like a knee on belly. You could try and get points here with your knee on belly. But then you're just going to start getting your right bicep into his neck and getting his own bicep into his neck. Pull your, my right arm is the one that's on his neck. So I'm going to pull that in, and this time I'm going to drive my head towards him so that both biceps are pressing into him. And I'm going to start driving forward. And he tapped before I could even get my head to the mat, really. You have a lot of space to drive, and instead of thinking necessarily about going forward, you really want to think about squeezing off the space between my bicep and his bicep. This is his bicep, this is my bicep, and his neck was in between. So now we're going to go to middle mount with mother's milk. So this is low mount. My knees are like at his hips. Middle mount, I'm like knees around his ribs. One thing to think about whenever you're middle mounting someone, you don't want them to, so the mother's milk position is pretty much my elbows over his head. And it's a nice position to just stall because it's hard for him to get out. So like, Anthony, try and move out of this position. I'm just gonna float. Alright, chill. So this is a good one for you to stall. My experience, the worst thing that can happen to me, at least that's what I do to other people, is you're gonna try and bridge your hips up and then try and capture one of my legs. So get your back over one of my legs. No. Bridge up. No, like this. Now come back down. Now if you see, when he came back down, my left leg is trapped. So it's putting me in a bad situation because there's not really as many attacks I can go for. And if he starts trying to bridge that way, I don't have the ability to post on my leg anymore. So if he captures my arm, I'm really messed up. But even if he doesn't capture my arm, if he bridges that way, I have my arm. But if he bridges this way, it's going to be really bad for me. So that's the main thing to watch out for when you're in middle mount. Don't let your leg get captured. At least that's what I do to people when they get in the middle mount on me. So from here, there's not really many attacks. It's just nice to stall on someone in Jiu Jitsu. It feels like MMA. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Sneak an elbow in, come back. But if you want to go for a sub, let's say I'm going to use my right hand to cross face. So again, I'm going to get his head facing that way, or his face facing that way, away from the way I lost my post, away from the side that I lost my post. And then I'm going to get my left hand to cross face him back. So I'm going to turn his face to the middle and come under and grab my arms. I'm going to try and get his nose in my chest plate. And now, let me tilt him a little bit more. Boom. You don't need to grapevine, so I'll see if I can do it without a grapevine. I'm pretty much going to pull my elbows to my scaps as back as I can. And then once I got that, then I'm going to start driving my pressure forward. And I started grapevining, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on him and potentially make him feel like his... What did you tap to?
Kind of like it was like a lot of pressure on my nose.
Do you feel like it was going to break?
Yeah, like right here. Not on the nose, but like...
The teeth?
Like
top of the teeth?
Yeah.
That's what I would aim. I would aim like right on their face, and your chest plate should be stronger. This is what I'm calling a chest plate. Should be stronger than most people's face. Not the forehead or the chin. If you go into the chin or forehead, that's where usually you won't get a tap, and you might even hurt your own self. But if you're right in this sensitive area, you'll probably cave their teeth in, cave their nose in, and they'll tap to that. So if they don't like that situation, what they'll likely do is get their hands inside if they were on time, and they can start pushing into me. So if he's pushing into me, as much as I pull, I'm really pulling his arm. So now what I want to do is get the hand that's not cross-facing into his neck. I'm going to make a fist right over his Adam's apple, and this time I'm going to put my chest plate into my wrist, the one that's on his neck. So if you see my wrist, my fist is on his neck, and my chest plate is going to go on my fist, and I'm pretty much going to do the exact same mechanics. I'm going to say I give my elbows back. What I mean by is I have him here, I'm going to give my elbows back like this. So if you see, the space is going to get cut off. And then there's no weight here, and this is all muscle. Like by muscle, I mean this is the strength of my ability to pull my scaps back. So you might not be strong enough to kill off all that space on someone just doing this. So that's where you can drive your body weight on top of it. So it's really easy to sink their head and crush it in. The other option that they'll likely go for, well, one thing that they might do if you're going for this Ezekiel, is they're gonna start trying to grab my left hand, which is the one that's on his neck, and they start doing that. You're gonna let them peel it off. So he's peeling it off, so you can start feeding for an Americana. And we already went over what to do with an Americana. But if you want to keep the crossface, you can also go for a one-handed Americana to still have your crossface, and just pull his wrist back towards his ribs. But the other option he might go for is he goes over the top. Yeah, so if he's coming over the top, you can pick whatever side you want. I usually like to pick my right side. My right knee is going to drive up, and then my left leg is going to go over his torso. And now I'm starting to work towards the S mount. And now I believe we're going to start working on a bunch of arm bars from S mount. So if you want to go for traditional armbar, I just start leaning towards my left leg, the one that's on his body. And I start walking my right leg over. And let's say you grab your hands. I get up figure four and I sit back. And when I sit back, I don't want to sit back with a lot of space between us. I want to sit back so that he's almost racked on top of me. And there's a couple ways to grip break. So the one classic one that I learned is to try and fall to his head. And it's going to kind of become like an Americana situation where it's going to make him want to let go. And he's going to be really weak there. The other one that I like a lot actually, is to grab the opposite hand and start pulling it in. And you're pretty much going to start armbarring both hands. Now, there's a bunch of options if you can't grip break or if you just don't want to go for an armbar. Well, before that actually, if he starts coming up, so say he starts coming up, I'm going to start falling towards his legs. So that way, when we fall, I'm going to try and fall into a belly down armbar situation. So I'm not so concerned if he comes up, as long as I make sure it's a belly down armbar, because in my opinion, belly down armbar is better than S mount armbar. So there's a bicep slicer that I like to go for. Actually, it will be my first thing to go for if I can't grip break, and usually, not really if I can't, but if he's grabbing his hands together. So let's say you're not grabbing your hands together, just go straight for the armbar. But most people are not going to just not be grabbing their hands together. So if you're going to step the leg that's over his, so one hand is going to smash his wrist down. Let's say my right hand in this case, but it wouldn't really matter if it was your left. I'm going to smash into his wrist. And then the leg that's grabbing over his body, my leg, is going to go over that to put additional pressure on that hand down. The leg that's over his head is going to go over top of the leg that is over his body. Now I have a figure four with my legs. My left hand in this case is the one that's inside his elbow. I'm going to start pulling his left elbow towards me with my left hand, with my wrist pointed towards me, as in my radial bone. And once I've pulled as much as I can, I'm going to apply pressure with my right hand down and my left leg down, and I'm going to start twisting. And now he tapped. And if you notice, I never let go of my grip. So if ever he lets go or something like that, I start working my armbar. But if you want to make this even stronger, you start making a figure four so that you can pull even more. But I prefer to just hold on to his wrist if you can. Now you can do a far side triple plata or grotto plata. So grab your hands together. So this is the side that I'm going to try and attack now. Really it's going to work if I can try and sit over his grip. And once you can do that, it just depends on which hand goes in between his right arm, his far side arm. So let's say it's my left side, my left hand. We start working a trico plata, a grotto plata. If it's my, that was a grotto plata. If it's my right hand, now I'm gonna start working trico plata. So left shin goes to the mat, right one post. And then with both of those, and this will apply later too. Let's just do it on the trico plata. Let's say he starts trying to get my back to the mat. Just make sure you get a figure four lock with your legs. And then you can start working a bicep slicer. So I'm gonna pull his elbow towards me with my radial bone. And then I'm gonna start twisting my wrist up. And this time, I didn't want to do that deep because like I already tell, it's really deep. But if you can, you're gonna want to get a figure 4 and do all of that. And also, if you notice, I wasn't even really squeezing my legs at all. But you want to squeeze your legs too. You get to tap much sooner or more likely than someone who's very stubborn. Okay, so let's go back to the bottom so we can get a traditional armbar mount. So another option is if, and this is part of the grip break. So one grip break that Olivia calls a shebang, she just stomps on the other, the other far side arm. But if you're trying that and you can't grip break, you can just make it seem like it slipped. And now your head leg that was over his head is gonna be over his near side armpit. You're gonna switch the leg that's over his body to his hip. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna try and do the falling back grip break. And he might intentionally try and get his head out. And if he does get his head out, if he doesn't, you have the falling back grip break. If he does get his head out, all you have to do is get the leg that's over his far side armpit towards his near side armpit. And now once you have that, you have a rear triangle. You can try and finish the rear triangle, or you can start trying to do arm locks on the arm is captured, whether it be an arm bar, wrist lock, Kimura, or Americana. And we're just trying to go over the transitions, especially because this video is going to be pretty long if we go into all the submission details. So if you want to see that, just comment. Alright, so now if your leg is over his head but not his body. So if I'm coming over for the tech mount, boom, but let's say I do it with a knee slice. So I'm going like this, boom, and I step over. So you can still get an armbar with a leg over his head and the other leg is behind his back. And when you pull him, you want to make him actually lay on your shin. And you still have all the same finishes. The main differences here is that you're not going to have like the biceps like trickle plot. There's going to be other secondaries to go for. I actually prefer this one because it goes more into my Kimura sequence. So if I don't like the situation that I'm in, I can start coming back up and start working my Kimura. Or if he's coming up, you fall back and you start working your scissor leg choke. And this will all go into the K-Trap series from, I believe, episode 5, 2 episodes ago. And you also have a near side Brado plot. Let's see if I remember that. Wanted to make sure he was racked over my left shin. Goes the right hand goes over the steps. No, this way. Boom. So might have to edit this now. Let's see if I remember this. This is Tarico Plata. Yeah, my notes are off. Tarico Plata is on when your leg is over the head. So to do the Tarico Plata, my leg is over his head, right leg. I'm just gonna feed my left hand towards my right thigh as my right leg steps over his torso to his near side torso. And I'm gonna get my left leg to post out as my right shin starts going towards the mat. And you actually don't really need to go all the way towards a normal Tarico Plata. But if I did, it's just gonna be a very strong finish. Now the other armbar mount is gonna be if I have my leg over his body but not his head. So that'll be like if I came over to tech mount, but I wasn't able to get this over his head. Maybe I want to skip that step. So I start pulling him back like this. You can still finish your arm bars here, which is nice from this position, but the secondaries are going to be a little different. So one of the things I like about the secondary here, you go for, let's see, a Tarico Plata. I'm gonna grab this time my right hand grabs over my left leg, step over. Actually, this one is Brado Plata, my bad. I'm mixing up which side is which. I should just go for what's natural and then be like, oh, this is a Brado Plata. So my bad, I'm mixing up which side is Brado Plata and Tarico Plata, but there is a Plata on each side. So this one is one that I like for rear triangles. You can shoot the leg that's under his head under further and just start trying to fall back. My right leg goes around his neck towards his armpit, and I got a rear triangle. Also, this one has a nice back kick. So you just fall over to my left side, which is the side near his legs. And it's especially nice while he's trying to get up. Then, well, before. So let's say you're trying to get up. I fall over, get my one side hooking. Boom, now I got my other side hooking. So you can time that pretty well if you're going for a leg over the torso and leg under the head armbar. And do you want to open the door? Because it is 7:20. Yeah. So next we're going to have a high mount. So we have one more series. High mount for an Americana, Kimura, or triangle. Alright, so Anthony, go back down. This time I have high mount. So let's say he's putting his hands together. If you can get both hands on his wrist and push down with your body, so lean over and push down, keep my arm straight the whole time, as opposed to bench pressing his arm down. Start working in Americana. And we're going over a few of the details on that. But if you can crucifix this, you can start trying to pull this arm up and shoot your knee past and step your leg over. My right leg in this case, because that's the side that's going to trap his arm. And you have a Kimura. But if you want to go for a triangle, lean over to the side that you're crucifixing. So you can start stepping the leg that's not crucifixing, my right leg, around and behind his head. Pull this in, or actually under. And now you got a triangle. Mounted, or arm locks. Anyways, that's the mounted series. If you learned something, please give me a like, subscribe to see the next one, which should be close guard, top close guard. Thank you.